two, one, and we are live. A podcast I've been looking forward to for some time now. Jason, how are you?
I'm good, Max. Thank you for the invite. I guess we were on a different podcast the last time I was talking with you.
Yep, Believe in Magic. Yes, sir. Combo. Yeah, Combo's like my evil twin. He's like the cousin I never had.
That's hilarious. Yeah, I relate a lot to Combo. I feel like him and I are just two old, washed hoopers that can't get enough of the game and continue to cling to that tiny little bit of hope that doesn't really exist. You know how it goes.
No, Combo, he's a funny guy. I met him one time. So I covered the NBA draft on SUV TV with Rashad Phillips. And he's like, man, I'm going to be in Atlanta too. And I was like, okay, well, we could finally meet in person. And he's a lot taller than I thought. Now I'm 6'2". So normally, and not that I'm like a tall guy, but normally usually I'm taller than the average person or at least the same height. Combo's a tall guy, so he was long and lengthy, so that threw me off out the gate.
How tall is he? Is he like 6'4", 6'5"?
Yeah, he's around there.
Right
but he's lanky, 6'4", 6'5". And then we ended up walking through a cookout drive-through. He never had cookout before. I was like, man, we didn't have a car. He's like, can we just walk through the drive-through? I'm like, Combo, I'm here, whatever you want to do. And that's what we did. And it was a story I'll never forget. He's a real genuine person.
Yeah, I've done probably like 3 or 4 shows with him over the years. I've always enjoyed working with Combo. Love Hoopers. I relate to Hoopers.
Yeah, that's one thing that I absolutely like. It's just like good basketball talk. It's why when we had you on Believe in Magic, like, oh, I got to get you on. You could tell you're just a genuine, smart guy who loves the game of basketball. And there's a lot of people who do, not to like diss anyone, but not everyone truly enjoys the basketball aspect of things. And it's become very narrative driven or just like the clickbaity stuff. And I just like good hoop talk, just genuine hoop talk. But that kind of leads us right into what I want to get into. Obviously, you played basketball. You're an athlete yourself. Can you kind of talk about what that was like and kind of your merge into sports media and how that took place?
Yeah, so I was a textbook late bloomer for a couple of different reasons. My parents raised me kind of on baseball and football. So I like played Little League baseball growing up and played some high school football. And then so I was just distant from the game and didn't really pick up a basketball until I was like 16, 17 years old. Wow. And then the other part of it was I randomly got super tall. So my dad is only about 6 foot, but my mom is a little bit taller. She's about 5'10". And out of nowhere, I just got huge. And like my brothers are both barely 6 foot. And I am like without shoes on about 6'6" and with shoes on about 6'7". And I've got about a 6'11" wingspan. So I just was like this big lanky dude who grew too fast, was super awkward, couldn't move, didn't know how to play. So I was the worst player on my high school basketball team. The story I always tell is on senior night, we had 6 seniors and the other 5 seniors all started and played most of the game. I played 0 minutes. And like that was just how bad I was when I was in high school. And then when I went to school, I just started playing pickup like every single day. And eventually I got used to my body and both of my brothers were really good football players and mobility was their strength. So eventually once I grew into my body, I was fast. And so then I was like this 6'6" dude with long arms who could move and jump. And suddenly I was a pretty decent basketball player. From a skill standpoint, I was not very good. I was a streaky shooter who couldn't really dribble and didn't really see the floor super well. But I found a role in college just kind of as like a stretch 4 who was a good defensive player and a good rebounder. And that was basically what I did. And like my first 2 years in college, I was top 3 in my conference in rebounding. So I just kind of like I clawed my way to a rotation spot on college basketball teams just by being an athlete, basically. And then my last year, I moved to the 3 and played more on the wing, but I was playing alongside 2 All-American guards and I primarily just focused on defense. So I just like guarded the other team's best player every single night. So what was cool about that is I really learned all the like details of winning basketball games during those years because it was the only way I could get my school paid for. It was the only way I could get my rotation spot was by clinging to that stuff. And now it's funny because you watch me play now and I'm like a guard. I dribble. I dribble really well. I shoot really well. I do a lot of things differently now than I used to, but it's all just for fun. I did briefly try to play professionally overseas. I had this agent that brought me a bunch of offers, but they were for small amounts of money. Like there was like, hey, you're going to come over here and you're going to make $300 a week. or like, hey, you're going to come down. That there was one team in Brazil that was like, we're just going to pay your room and board. I was like, so I'm just going to like, go down and live in Brazil and play, and here's the thing. There's a lot of guys who go that route, and it's a route. You go down there, you play, you put up numbers, and then the next year you get more money. And then the next year you get more money. And then the next year, and then maybe you find yourself in one of the lower level leagues in Europe and you're making, a few $1,000 a week. Like there's guys who do that, but I was married and like had dogs and bills, and so like I wasn't going to leave my wife to go make $300 a week overseas, and so it didn't work out that way. I did briefly play for a league in India, but they only paid me for a few weeks before the league ended up folding, because that happens a lot with lower level professional leagues around the world. But I'm kind of at peace with it. Right now the game is just really like fun for me. And the media thing has just been my transition into keeping basketball as my focus without having to play professionally. So like basically I got into real estate because it was a really flexible career. So I was like literally my own boss kind of deal. So I could carve out time to do film breakdowns or to do shows with Raj with State of the Lakers. And then we did 152 episodes of State of the Lakers before the volume reached out. And that's kind of like whenever anybody reaches out to me and asks me what to do, like it's just fake it till you make it, man. Like just make a show. Like we are all empowered with social media and with the stuff that we have at our house now. There's like, if you don't quit after 100 episodes, keep going. It might take a long time. Like you've got to just continue to put yourself out there, and then eventually the opportunities will follow. And I'm extremely lucky to be where I'm at now. The volume's taken really good care of me, and love the team. And man, I'm just talking about basketball every day. You can't beat it.
That's fantastic. That's an awesome story. That really is. Now, for me, I talked a lot in class. Like I would always just talk a lot. And like, I just found myself in like debates with all my coaches all the time. They're like, man, you need to get into sports. I'm like, okay. But like, of course, my goal is I want to be in the NBA. Like that's all I thought about. If you don't think I can't be in the NBA, I'm gonna prove you I can get in the NBA. So first one in, last one to leave. I didn't have like this God gifted ability. So I had to earn it. Like I had to just work harder than everybody. And I reside in Daytona Beach, Florida. Currently I'm in LA with the Fox Sports internship, but that's where Vince Carter played basketball. So his teammates, his coaches kind of took me under his wing because they're local coaches. And they're like, DTLT, do the little things. You need to be the first one in. You need to work out before school because they know talent. And obviously I don't have Vince Carter talent. So I need to work harder than other people. Very quickly, I realized, okay, I can either play small division college basketball, Division II basketball, or I could just go into what I want to do with my life. And so I'm like, okay, I'm going to have to retire from the game and just get into what I want to do. And to your point, I'm like, my whole thing is why wait? That's why I hashtag everything. I'm like, why wait to do something? Like we have the power of podcasts and technology and social media. I'm just going to create my own show. And now I believe this episode's like 230 something. And the amount of people I've been able to connect with, I mean, like I said, and being in Fox Sports and knowing Chris Broussard and Rob Parker and Brian Hollins and Brandon Haywood and people such as yourself and Combo, I'm like, this is a dream. Like, how could you write up anything better other than this? So it's awesome. I love following your journey. I always watch your content, and I definitely know you know the game of basketball. So I'm like, definitely happy to have you on. So that's awesome. And now you're killing it with your stuff too. So my question before we get into basketball is the way sports media is today. Do you feel like podcasting and streaming is just going to continue to grow, or do you think there's going to be another element that kind of comes about?
I'm really curious about that because, I've talked a lot with my wife. I live out here in Tucson, Arizona. And, obviously I've had conversations like, oh, like what happens if an opportunity crops up and I'm asked to move to LA or I'm asked to move to New York or something along those lines. And interestingly enough, like I really think that we're trending in a way to where you can put together a television quality show from your house. Like I am in our guest bedroom. My dogs are running around like crazy behind me and I can't get them to chill out. And I've got spotlights and I've got a digital camera that's basically acting as a webcam feed. But like I've got a team of producers. There's, that are like a couple of them are in Phoenix, a couple of them are in LA, and a couple of them are in New York. And like we put together a show with a rundown on the side and we can, hey, chill out. They're never like this. Anyway, it's one of those things where we can put together a pretty damn good show.
Right.
And so from in terms of quality, so it's like, and I think that'll only get better and better over the years. And so what I've told my wife is yeah, like if there was a golden opportunity that pulled me to a place like that, I would consider it. But like my hope is that for the rest of my life, I'll be able to live wherever I want to live and do this, which is, I think, an advantage of the space. I think there are a couple of different things that we'll see that'll change. Like I think YouTube is growing really fast and TikTok is growing really fast.
Right.
So like one of the issues with the podcast world is, and this is a piece of advice that I would give to anybody who's trying to build a podcast, put it on as many platforms as possible. So like instead of just throwing it onto a podcast feed, the algorithm for discovery is not very good with podcasts. So like for instance, if you've got a podcast, they can find it from your Twitter feed if you send out links, right? But it's not like people are like spending a lot of time on the browse page of Apple Podcasts. It's not like people are getting exposed to new podcasts that way. Like you hear about a podcast, you go to it and you subscribe to it and you listen. Whereas with YouTube and with TikTok, there's an algorithm at play that's recommending you to people. So our show really picked up steam towards the end of the regular season last year and into the playoffs, in large part because of the way that YouTube recommended our content. So YouTube's algorithm rewards you for watch time. And TikTok is a similar thing. Like if someone watches a TikTok all the way through to fruition, it pushes it out to a bunch more people. It's like an ultimate meritocracy, right? So like my thing is like record your podcast with video, or heck, do it with audio only if that's what you want to do. But don't just put it on a podcast feed. Put it in your YouTube. Clip out stuff and put it onto TikTok. Do as much as you can to kind of keep the spread of your content as wide as possible, so that you can draw people from a larger user base. But I do think that in the long run, it's going to be like digital shows. So I think you're going to see a lot more YouTube shows that will be redistributed as podcasts, a lot more social media content, and then a lot less of the traditional studio television type of shows is my guess. But that's just a guess. And dude, I'm new to the business, so everything I'm saying, it's like I'm probably the last guy to ask, to be honest with you.
Right. No, and what you hit the nail on the head there. Sorry for the technical issues. You hit the nail on the head there. And that's one thing. The thing about TikTok is it's so addictive, and it's such a you watch one, like my whole feed is motivational videos, dog videos, and sports. And like you watch one dog video, the next 5 videos are dogs. And it's like, God, again, I love dogs, and I love I just find the same thing. So yeah, if you find like a sports clip, the next 5 sports things are sports clips. But let's get into the NBA. So Kevin Durant recently, I love analogies, and it's kind of why Collins inspired me a lot. Like I grew up on analogies because my family actually isn't the big sports family. And my best friend's family kind of took me in a little bit. And so we would always just talk with analogies. And I'm like, all right, my dad doesn't watch sports. So I'm like, hey, okay, you love movies, Dad. He's like Tom Hanks. I'm like, that's just who he is. Like, so I just naturally grew up with like just doing analogies. So listening to Colin and how he could pull people together inspired me to do analogies even more. And so recently I've done like Marvel characters, rap artists, LeBron and Bluetooth, some crazy stuff. But recently I did quarterbacks to NBA players. Recently, I'm never into tearing people down. So this is what's interesting. I did Aaron Rodgers to Kevin Durant. And I said both players, probably the most talented we've seen from that position. But it's really weird because even though they could be a number one, Aaron Rodgers had Tom Brady. And so we naturally think like Tom Brady's era. Kevin Durant had LeBron James, so you think of LeBron James era. Any other era, they probably would be number one. And they also get criticized for how they lead or combative with the media. They listen to things, they comment to people, but that's just who they are. Like we can't expect them to be something that they're not. Kevin Durant's going to go on Twitter and respond to people if he doesn't agree with it. And that's fine. But that's why I see a lot of similarities with them. Kevin Durant, so I put that out there. Kevin Durant ended up commenting saying you can't compare me and 12 and kind of was going back and forth a little bit. And I interviewed him when I covered the Magic about a year ago. And I gave him his flowers. I'm like, you and Kyrie could be the greatest artist duo as far as just two people with a blank canvas, can do literally everything. Left, right hand, pull up, finish at the rim. But it was interesting just because it kind of proved my point by responding to what I was saying is what him and Aaron Rodgers do. So my macro question for you is with Kevin Durant, it seems like ever since he left Golden State, we've seen a different version of him. And then it seems like there may be, I'm not a psychologist here and I'm not trying to act like I'm diagnosing him with insecurities, but it seems like ever since he left Golden State, that seems to be something that bothers him. It's like we've never seen him really lead a team. And that's what someone commented on my post. And he was like, "Oh," like he commented on, like it just seems to bother him. So at this point in his career, we obviously know the frustrations he had with Brooklyn. How do you evaluate Durant's career? What should be the expectations for him at this point?
Well, I think the Golden State situation is really interesting because I do think that whole situation goes deeper than people realize.
Right.
I think that KD personally felt like the Draymond situation that took place where, the we don't need you, leave, after that late game situation. I think that was kind of like a microcosm of the larger way that Kevin was feeling, which was basically like not just the fan base, but even internally among the players and among management. I think he felt as though he wasn't valued, and that they viewed him as kind of a tag along as rather than as an equal partner. And I think that there's some legitimacy to that belief. Like the Draymond beef, there was that whole thing where when he got hurt, when Steph like went to the media and was like, we got this, we're gonna be fine. We're just gonna go back to the way things used to be. And like I think Kevin legitimately felt like they like their thing that they've got going on over there. They want to go back to the way it was before me, so I'm going to leave. I legitimately think that's the way that he kind of processed that situation. Are there some insecurities at play? Sure. But I think everybody has those same types of insecurities. It's the same reason that LeBron acts the way that he acts or any of those things. I think that's honestly one of Steph's biggest strengths is he just doesn't care what anybody thinks about anything. Look, Kevin, I think getting caught with the burner accounts also was one of the best things that ever happened to him because now he just leans into his true personality on social media all the time.
Right.
I actually find Kevin to be the most likable player in the NBA, as crazy as that sounds, because he is a true and I shouldn't say likable from the standpoint of like being friends with the guy. It just means in terms of authenticity. Like he's a guy who loves basketball, and that's clearly his top priority. Even all of his off-court ventures, you can tell, are just on the side for him. They don't represent nearly as much importance in his life as the game does. And then the way he interacts with people now is just 100% authentic. And I find it just really, really likable in general. As far as the rest of his career goes, like, here's the reality of the situation. Winning a championship is extremely difficult, and it usually requires that a bunch of factors break your way. And even if you look throughout NBA history, it's like LeBron winning a couple because he managed to put a team together in Miami that was one of the most talented teams in the league, or even the Steph Curry era. And I think Steph Curry is the fifth best perimeter player since 1980. But he has had one of the most talented organizations from top to bottom of this decade. Like, that's not coincidental. So like, I think sitting there and being like, oh, KD didn't win enough in Brooklyn, so that's some sort of negative on his resume doesn't make any sense to me, because the reality is there was one time he had enough talent to compete, and then both of his co-stars got hurt and he still almost made it. And since then he's been, kind of like dealing with severe roster limitations. Same thing with LeBron. Like, we can't, discount all the failures that have come from the Lakers the last couple of years as talent related and not buy Kevin that same, leeway. And I know that's a boring answer, and it's so much more fun for people to get on and be like, KD only won with Steph, that means he's a bum. But it's like, that just doesn't interest me. Like, if we're being realistic about just the basketball, like, who really has definitively been better at basketball than Kevin Durant over the last decade? Like, only LeBron and maybe Steph. And yet, like, Giannis won a couple years ago. Like, and I don't think he was like Kevin Durant was every bit as good as Giannis, if not better than him in that playoff series. It's a team sport. We're way too results based. Winning should always be the goal, but it should be the primary focus. But winning should always be contextualized within a team accomplishment. And I think sometimes we oversimplify it, and then it just turns into dumb guy conversation. And like Kevin Durant, and this last thing I'll say about it, I think he gets the most unfair coverage on Twitter. Like, I think the way his career is represented is extremely unfair to the quality of basketball he's played when he's been available on the court.
I think that's a really great point. I think that's a really, really fair point. And I'm still a fan of the guy. I killed him with kindness. I'm like, what, KD, listen, man, I never into tearing people down. I still think you're an amazing basketball player. I'm rooting for him. But another analogy, and this will transition us into the Lakers as well. I said LeBron James, Tom Brady for obvious reasons. Obviously, the longevity, the success, championships, different teams. Their brand is bigger than life. They're off field, off court business adventures. It's insane what they've been able to do for as long as they've done it. But one thing that recently just happened where I do think there is a little bit of a difference, and obviously it's easy to make this comparison now when the Lakers seem to be a little bit dysfunctional and then the Buccaneers seem to be a little bit dysfunctional. What's going on? But Tom Brady, I still feel like is 100% invested when he plays. Like he's competitive. He wants to win at all costs. We just saw it. He came back against the Rams, game-winning drive. It's like, golly, like he still is so passionate about it. Like, there's no questioning when he's on the field where his head is at. And even with all the off-field things that are going on in his life. Caldwell Pope recently just said he didn't see the spark in LeBron James. And to his point, I agree with it. When you watch certain games, and obviously I know you watch Laker basketball, LeBron has this tendency to check out a little bit. And I can't really blame the guy. He's used to going to 9 straight finals. He won a championship 2 years ago, and now you're having this mess that's going on in LA, whether you think he's a big cause of it or not. But he knows this is a bad basketball team. What do you make of LeBron's approach to the game right now? Like, where is his focus? Obviously, he wants to play with Bronny. Obviously, he's pulled in a million different directions. But what do you think he thinks of when he thinks of this Lakers team right now?
I think one of the biggest mistakes and problems with Jeannie Buss and Rob Pelinka's approach to the season, which was kind of like a wait and see, kind of like, let's see how they look, and then we'll decide what we're going to do. One of the biggest problems there is you've directly affected LeBron's belief in this team. There was a moment in 2018 where the Cavaliers made a wholesale roster change right before the trade deadline, and they sent out Jay Crowder, Dwayne Wade, a bunch of different guys, Isaiah Thomas, and they brought back like Rodney Hood, Jordan Clarkson, Larry Nance, and just a bunch of role players. And almost immediately they started playing way better. And some of it was naturally fitting personnel. They got younger, more athletic. But a big part of it was LeBron James was reinvested emotionally in the team. And I think if I remember correctly, the GM, and I'm blanking on his name right now, but the young GM that they had just hired that year went on the national TV broadcast in their first game after the trade deadline and was like, oh, well, the big thing we traded for was a reinvested LeBron James. And it was funny because like that to me is probably the biggest weakness of LeBron James in his career. And I think it's overplayed because it only manifests when his team isn't good. But LeBron is a fair weather leader. When things are good and he truly believes his team has a chance to win, his day-to-day investment level is every bit as psychotic as a Tom Brady or Michael Jordan or a Kobe Bryant. But what happens is he gets really discouraged when he doesn't believe in his team. And it manifests in a bunch of different ways. Now, in the Laker era, he's been better with the off-court stuff. In the Cleveland era, and a little bit there towards the end of Miami, when he was unhappy, it'd be really passive-aggressive. He'd be making comments and doing things that kind of undercut the chemistry of the locker room. Whereas now, it's more just body language and quality of play and stuff like that. But one of my biggest fears coming into this season in particular was that Rob and Jeannie being too patient with the Russ trade would lead to essentially such a bad start for the Lakers that they wouldn't deem it worthwhile to invest. And I was specifically worried about that because I saw the schedule. The schedule was like from the start, just an extremely tough first, dozen games or so. And so the problem here is, we're looking down at the roster. Anthony Davis looks better than he did the last couple years. Russ looks better than he has the last couple years. But the rest of the roster is severely limited, and LeBron's not playing super well. But it's not just him not making his shot. He's also in pick and roll, like just making no attempt to get downhill. I shared out this stat the other day, but like on tape, you could see he comes off the screen. He's just picking up his dribble and just throwing lazy swing passes or stupid, like congested pocket passes to Anthony Davis. And as pick and roll ball handlers go among players who have run at least 40 possessions in the league this year, he's dead last in points per possession. And I think there's about 50 guys that meet that marker, and he's averaging just over a half a point per possession. And like, this is the best downhill player we've had probably in league history. That's just making no attempt to get downhill. And part of it is like, he knows it hurts. He knows it puts wear and tear on his body. And like what you've done by putting him in this situation where he doesn't believe in his team is you're getting a worse version of LeBron James. Now, you can look at that two different ways. You could be critical of LeBron and you could say, hey, dude, like you've got to be better, which is true. But the problem here is the Lakers and their unwillingness to invest in this team and to leave opportunity on the table has put them in a situation where LeBron's not invested emotionally. And that is directly affecting the team. And so I think that blame goes 50-50. LeBron's got to be better, but the Lakers got to know that if they invest in the team and provide him with better personnel, he will be more invested, as he always has been throughout his career.
I could not agree more with you. Now, let me tell you what I said. So I said this a couple weeks ago. Russell Westbrook, I thought you should have made the trade for Turner and Buddy Hield, some shooters. They didn't want to give up draft picks. And I said another thing that you really need to look at, because it's easy to target Russell Westbrook, I personally would trade Anthony Davis now while you can get the most for him while the market is the highest. But if you're not interested, if you're Jeannie Buss and Rob Pelinka, and you're not interested in, if you believe right now, okay, we have LeBron in year 20, say we trade for Anthony Davis, let's say we trade for Russell Westbrook, we still don't believe we can win right now because they're holding on to draft picks. If you're so worried about the future, then why not look into trading everybody and completely rebuild? And maybe that's an uncomfortable conversation you have to have. Hey, LeBron, listen, we messed up. We got a championship. We're thankful for your time, but we want to completely rebuild. If you want to stay here and be a part of that, kind of like what Kobe did in his last years, we'd really appreciate that. You get paid. You're still here. If not, where can we move you where you're in the best fit for yourself and go out on mutual terms? Because if you're not looking to take a risk and win now, then what are we really doing?
Well, I don't understand the ideology that the 2027 and 2029 first round picks are the last first round picks that the Lakers will ever have. I did this whole thing on Monday night about this. Let's be clear. LeBron and Anthony Davis are under contract, no option next season. Okay. Then they both have player options the following season. So what does that mean? That means that they have a certain amount of trade value. And LeBron probably is going to pick up his $54 million option in that following season, because I doubt he's going to be able to, like, if he declines that much. Right. So like the reality is like, you've got assets. Your assets are LeBron James and Anthony Davis. Right now, they're most valuable playing for you. Okay. There will come a point where they'll be most valuable to be traded. That will be when you've identified that they can no longer be the two best players on a championship team, which we don't know. I think Anthony Davis is the early favorite for Defensive Player of the Year, although the last couple games haven't been great. But he's been defending extremely well, and he's still averaging like 24 points per game efficiently. So he's probably somewhere between the 15th and 10th best player in the league. LeBron's not playing like a top 20 player right now, but he in theory should get better. So right. I would expect that LeBron at some point in the next couple of weeks will get up to about around the 10th best player in the league. So you do have two top 10 players ish, right? So go in on it now, trade those two first round draft picks, make a run. Now it's on LeBron James and Anthony Davis. If you get them Buddy Hield and Miles Turner, and they go out there every night with, Dennis Schroeder or Patrick Beverley at point guard, with Buddy Hield at the 2, LeBron at 3, Anthony Davis at the 4, and Miles Turner at the 5, and they lose a bunch and they don't compete for a title, then guess what? You don't have an assets problem. You have a LeBron and Anthony Davis aren't good anymore problem. That's your problem. Mm-hmm. So, but you don't know that problem because right now they're playing with the worst supporting cast in the league by far. You've got to give them a legitimate fighting chance. Then we get to May and they're eliminated in the play-in tournament, and you're sitting around and you're like, man, that Buddy Hield and Miles Turner trade sure was a bust. Okay, but I've got LeBron James and Anthony Davis under contract. Anthony Davis will be 29, 30 or something like that at that point. Yeah. You trade Anthony Davis, you're going to get at least 2 first-round picks, probably more, okay? LeBron James, probably 1 first-round pick, maybe more, depending on how he looks, right? But you have that option. Hey, you can go hey, we're going to keep Anthony Davis and we're just going to trade LeBron. And now I'm building around Anthony Davis and whatever I get back from the LeBron package. Or maybe LeBron looks great, but Anthony Davis breaks down again. Okay, I'm trading Anthony Davis and I'm rebuilding around LeBron. You have the flexibility to rebuild, but right now you don't know what LeBron James and Anthony Davis are capable of. Here's the fact, okay? The last 2 times we saw them in the playoffs together, they won a title and were leading 2-1 on the Suns with a team that couldn't shoot, okay? So, at a certain point, it's worth finding out if they're going to lose at full strength to somebody. It's worth finding out. And they are specifically playoff mismatch problems for just about everybody in the league. So it's just amazing to me that they're not even going to find out whether or not they're capable of it anymore.
My question is why? Like I always try to look at the other perspective, the other side of things. Okay, like what is your point of view on this? So if you're not rebuilding for the future, then what are you waiting for? Like, what is it that, like, you know what, let's just give it time. But at what point in time do you just say, you know what, this probably does not work? Like, what are they waiting for?
I have a feeling that it has a lot more to do with money than people think. I think there's a couple of different pieces there. Like, I think that Rob and Jeannie, if this goes up in flames, are under the impression that LeBron and Anthony Davis are going to get blamed, which could not be more wrong because the fan base is like ready to pound down her door, literally. And then the money part is a big part of it. I think they're concerned that if they make a deal and they bring back long-term salary, it's going to keep them in the repeater tax next year, which is going to cause some sort of problem, which means the far more, like, if they make a deal, what I anticipate they'll do is they'll do something like the Spurs deal, and they'll go after like Josh Richardson and Doug McDermott, which would get them under the tax apron. And then essentially they'd be like, oh, here we go, we gave you reinforcements, but really it's in the back of their head that they're just trying to save money, which is discouraging on so many different levels. Because again, it's like I was talking to my wife about this the other day because we were joking about the Tom Brady Gisele Bündchen thing, and I was like I'm not debating that he might have had some significant role in their divorce just by being a psychopath, but when you marry Tom Brady, you have decided that there is an ulterior purpose to your marriage. Like, you have married the greatest quarterback of all time. He has an obligation to history to continue to play until he can't play anymore. And it's funny because, like, guess what? The Bucks have sucked this year. What are they, 4-5? It's not because of Brady. Like, he still has the talent. They're having other personnel issues elsewhere on the roster. You know, the receivers have been hurt all year. They've had issues with the offensive line. There's been a bunch of different problems going on with the Patriots or with the Buccaneers. So it's like Brady understands his purpose here on earth, which is I am the greatest quarterback that's ever played. Therefore, I must keep playing. But Gisele doesn't seem to understand that dynamic potentially. And that's just my impression of the situation. It might be very different, but that's kind of the way I see it. It's like when you decided to go into the LeBron James business, you have an obligation to NBA history to give him every opportunity to win because he's the second best player of all time, maybe the first, depending on who you ask. And that's where she's fumbling the bag here. She's not understanding the assignment. It's like, you should never have gotten married to Tom Brady if you didn't want him to play football. And you should never have gone into business with LeBron James if you didn't want to be in the luxury tax the entire time he was there. I just don't understand it.
I could hug you right now. I got into the same argument with everyone. And I was like, listen, they're like, but you have to realize, and not to, like you said, not to get into it too much, but I'm like, listen, Tom Brady is different than the whole rest of the world. You're talking, there's only one Tom Brady in the whole world. Like, imagine being the best at something of all time, of anything. Like, his criteria and what his obligations are and duties are far different than everybody else. He's not a normal football player. Like, you have to know signing up, this is Tom Brady. This isn't just Joe Schmo off the bench here. This is Tom Brady. But, oh man, you sound...
And it's unassailable too. Like, he's like the goat. It's not even like who do you think? It's like he's got a chasm between him and the next best guy.
Exactly. Thank you so much. All right, we're going to transition to this. I appreciate your time. The Milwaukee Bucks, and then we'll get into Luka. Okay. The Milwaukee Bucks, to me, were my picks to win it all this year. I believe Giannis is the best player in the world. I don't know if you're a Marvel guy, but I was like, before he was Hulk, where he was like this dominant force that you couldn't contain, but he didn't really know how to control it and channel it. And then he kind of became Professor Hulk. We're like, oh my God, now he has this strength and dominance, but now he understands the game. His passing is underrated. He understands he doesn't always have to have the ball because then that takes away from Drew Holiday. That may take away from Middleton. And he's just more cerebral now, and he's channeled it back, and he's channeled it in the right areas. And now he's just dominating like everything in every aspect of the game. And the Bucks are like, what, they have one loss now. I think they're 9-1. What have you taken away from that? They kind of separated themselves. I know obviously the Boston Celtics were just in the finals. The Miami Heat are always, I know they're not off from the best start this year, but they're always dangerous. You know, they're always well coached. What do you think of the Milwaukee Bucks and Giannis going into this year? Are they everything you thought they would be, or is this just a really good regular season team right now?
So I had them. I want to say I had them second in my power rankings before the season.
You had the Sixers, right? You like the Sixers?
The Sixers were fifth, I think. I
Oh,
had I had the Warriors at one. I think the Warriors are just a safer bet. Like if you don't have a clear cut favorite, you're better off going with the team that's got the best coach, the best general manager, that's got the best young assets if they need to make a trade, that's got the superstar, that's got all the experience in the world and Steph and all those different things. But as the season has progressed, I've actually leaned closer to the Bucks, and I'm like one more bad Warriors loss from getting off of the Warriors and picking the Bucks instead.
Right
but yeah, they can't. It's a problem. But the with the Bucks, a couple of specific things that are encouraging. Obviously, Giannis is passing the ball extremely well. The lack of off-ball shooting has been a problem with them throughout last year's playoffs and then coming into this year. But like, what's interesting is specifically there are two players for the Bucks that are starting to shoot the ball really well that are making them especially terrifying. Javon Carter is making shots now, and they had a specific problem basically with the Grayson Allen minutes last year where they weren't getting enough out of him defensively, and then offensively he was actually super mistake prone. Javon Carter is one of their best perimeter defenders outside of maybe Drew Holiday. Good ball pressure guard, gets up into players, makes everything difficult, and he's shooting well now, not just in spot up situations but also off the dribble, and so that's exciting. And then Brook Lopez is back. I think last I checked, he's over 2 made threes per game, and he's shooting a much better percentage. Having because he was out most of the year last year, right. Having those two guys knocking down threes has led to them having a much better stretch of shooting over the last 3-4 games. And now they're really starting to. They went ice cold in that third quarter against the Hawks the other night, and heck, that's the NBA regular season. You're going to drop a game here and there.
Yep.
But you've got Chris Middleton on the way. You've got Joe Ingles on the way. You've got Pat Connaughton on the way. There's like these moments. There are these moments in sports where you kind of are just like, are we all going to be looking at each other in the future and being like, wow, they whooped everyone's ass. Like, why didn't we see that coming? It's kind of like the 2020 Lakers. Like, I was screaming this from the mountaintops. Like, they were 24-3. No one could score on them. LeBron looked like an MVP. Anthony Davis looked like an MVP. And everyone's like, oh, they're half-court offense. Or, oh, they can't beat the Clippers. Or, what about Giannis? And I'm like, these guys are way better than everybody. Like, they're just like, and then guess what? They get into the playoffs and they literally kick everyone's ass. And it's like, there are these times that you've got, like, I was looking at it before the season. I'm like, Giannis is plus 700 to win MVP. I'm like, Luka's not going to win enough games. Giannis is going to average 32 and 12 and 8 or whatever he's going to average, right? Like, that's just, you could book it. They're like, Brook Lopez is going to be healthy this year. They're going to get Chris Middleton back. They're going to win a lot of games. This dude's going to be the MVP. And his odds have dropped all the way down from plus 700 to like plus 200 at this point.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm like this close to picking them as my new championship favorite. And I'll be honest with you, man, that of all of the players to see in a playoff series, I can't even imagine what it would be like to deal with Giannis. Like, Boston Celtics fans have to still be dealing with some PTSD from him just running them over for 7 straight games last year. He's by far the best player in the world, in my opinion. I don't think it's particularly close. He's messing around now too. Like, the dude is not even giving consistent effort 48 minutes the way he used to, and yet he's better than he used to be because of just how incredible he screwed around for a half against the Nets the other night, and then just was like, I'll turn it on here in the third quarter, and just finished at the rim like 7 or 8 times in a row, and the game was over. Like, he's on a whole other level right now, man.
And he gets it. Like, I love his character. Like, he works hard. There's no drama. Like, there's nothing going on. He just wants to work hard. He's a get it guy. I fall in love with him every time I listen to his interviews. I'm like, this is exactly what you'd want as your cornerstone guy. Lastly, Luka Doncic. So I've gotten a lot of pushback for this. I had J Mac on the podcast. He was like, you're crazy because he thinks Luka's the best player in the world. And I said, I'm selling my Luka stock, not because of his ability. I picked him to win MVP. I think he's going to put up crazy numbers. But we've only seen one player in NBA history be the system and win consistently. That's LeBron James. But he's not the defender of LeBron or the athlete of LeBron James. Now, he may be more offensively gifted or crafty, fundamentally sound with his shooting, but you can't just be the system and consistently win, especially in the playoffs. The refs swallow the whistle. You have to beat a team 4 different times. There's a reason why Phil Jackson went to Michael Jordan and said you could average 40 points, or you could pass the ball, elevate others, and make your team better and win some championships. Obviously, I'm not saying J. Kidd is Phil Jackson, but this seems predictable to me, and I feel like I've seen this movie before. And so the expression is the windshield is bigger than the rearview mirror. But I said there's a reason why you could still look in your rearview mirror. You don't want to run into things. Luka, I feel like you need to look at the history of the game and what it tells us. So I feel like Luka's going to continue to put up, 33, 35, 36 points a game. But I've seen this movie before, and that's why I said I'm selling my stock, because with MVPs, with these numbers, with 2K covers, the expectation is going to be championships. And I don't believe he'll win a championship the way that this is running. Do you agree with that, or are you going to push back on that a little bit?
So I think in general, the idea of a heliocentric player without a legitimate release valve winning a championship is impossible. But that goes down the board even to LeBron James. Like the reality is like he won in 2020 because he had an isolation player and Anthony Davis that he could throw the ball down to, and that dude was hitting fadeaways like Kevin freaking Durant in that playoff run, right? And then in 2016, it was like 2/3 LeBron heliocentric play, but the other third of it was like Kyrie would just dribble the ball up the court, not make a single pass, dribble 15 more times, and knock down a tough contested 15-footer, right? Like that was his release valve there that kind of alleviated the heliocentric nature. And then obviously Dwayne Wade and Chris Bosh kind of played that role in the Miami Heat era. You know, there's I think I look at him as a lot closer to LeBron offensively than I do to Harden. And the main reason why is offensive versatility. So specifically with James Harden, he was smaller, right? Like 6'5", and a little bit chunky, not the best athlete in the world, but he had mastered a couple of specific things: a right-handed drive, a left-handed drive, and a step-back jumper going to his right. And then when he got to the rim, he could finish well, but he didn't have anything in the middle. And there was very little other variety, and everything was either at a high pick and roll and high isolation. And so as a result, over the course of playoff series, teams would start to figure out his ticks and figure out how to anticipate what he was going to do, and he became less and less effective. And as you watch James Harden in his playoff career, he's always very good in game ones, and then he would fall apart as series has progressed because teams would just kind of figure him out. The LeBron thing is like it's heliocentric, but he's always attacking from different spots on the floor. Sometimes it's out of the block. Sometimes it's out of the high post. Sometimes he's in the corner. Sometimes he's at the top of the key. Sometimes it's in isolation. Sometimes it's in pick and roll. Everything is different. When he's attacking you, it's like it might be a jab step jumper. It might be a step back jumper. It might be I'm going downhill, but then I'm turning my back and I'm changing into a post up. It might be a fade away over my right shoulder, fade away over my left shoulder. This push shot, that push shot, all this variety in his finishing that basically made it so that he got actually stronger and stronger as series progressed, because he would identify the weaknesses of his defense and cater his approach of the defense he's playing against and cater his approach to beating those guys rather than the opposite happening. And I actually think of Luka in that same tier. I actually think he's every bit as good offensively now that LeBron James has been at most of the phases of his career. The big difference is he just can't impact the game defensively the way that LeBron, like all these great moments. 2020, LeBron was unbelievable defensively. 2016, LeBron was unbelievable defensively. Best defensive player in the world in 2012, 2013. So like that's what separates him, and that's why he's the second best player of all time. But on the offensive end of the floor, Luka has all that capability. He's just never had an Anthony Davis or a Kyrie Irving or a legitimate second option that can alleviate, because it's also about fatigue. It's about him not getting tired at the end of games. If his use, because right now his usage rate is up over 40, and that's completely unsustainable. The Mavericks aren't beating anybody until they figure that part out, at least not in a playoff series. But like that's not on Luka. It's a team construct thing at this point. Eventually, I believe they'll bring in somebody that will be a legitimate second option to him that can carry legitimate weight for significant chunks of the season in playoff series. His usage rate will fall down. He'll focus more on the other areas of the game and he'll be fine. I don't think it's fair necessarily to categorize Luka as a guy that can't play with others until we see him play with another. Like I want to see, he's an extremely high IQ player. So I want to see what it looks like when if they can make a trade for Bradley Beal and they get Bradley Beal next to him as a legit second option. I want to see what that looks like before I just decide that he's not capable of that. I don't think he's the best player in the world yet, but I think very highly of Luka, and I believe he will win multiple NBA championships.
Right, and I agree that if he has the help, I think a Beal would be like an ideal fit. Now, I guess my last follow up with that would be: is it a little surprising that they haven't been a bigger free agent destination? Like Mark Cuban's one of the best owners in sports, no state tax, it's Dallas, it's attractive city. I'm surprised that they haven't landed. And now that you have a guy like Luka, so you know you have like the number one guy that most GMs vote on if you had to start a franchise other than Giannis, it's like him. And so you have a promising guy, you have the owner, you have the management. What is it? Why haven't they been a bigger free agent destination?
Well, for starters, I don't think they've actually had legitimate cap space with a real free agent yet. From what I mean by that is like Kawhi Leonard being available in 2019 after the finals. Like, when's the last time we've really had that? Like, instead, everyone's just re-upping and asking for trades. Like, that's just the reality of how the system works now. So like, there's a lot of, it's smart for teams to keep mid-level contract. That's another big reason why I don't understand clinging to Russell Westbrook or fearing taking on long-term money. It's like that long-term money, it doesn't mean you have to pay that guy for 4 years or 3 years or 2 years. Maybe you just flip him and trade him again in the future. But specifically with Dallas, I believe that if they had a max slot and a guy like Beal was an unrestricted free agent, that he would strongly consider going to a place like Dallas. I don't think it's a market issue. I don't think it's a I don't want to play with Luka issue. I think it just has to do with the way the league works now, and you just are seeing all these teams just re-up. Like Bradley Beal, I don't think Bradley Beal re-upped with the Wizards with the intention of staying there that entire contract. I think that was a textbook. Let me get my 5 years, 150 million or whatever the heck, 100 or 200 million, whatever it was, and I'll just get a trade when I need it. It just seems to me that that's the direction that the league is heading, which is a whole other thing they're going to have to deal with in the collective bargaining agreement, because trades are, obviously optically not great for teams when you have guys just backing out. But I don't think it's going to be like, as long as they manage their assets properly, which is a whole other thing, I think Dallas will have every capability of entering into those conversations for players as anybody else. The tricky part is they don't have that really interesting young piece that can be the centerpiece of a trade. Because anytime a star becomes available, it's like, oh, we want multiple first round picks and we want multiple young, interesting prospects, and it always ends up being like one interesting prospect and like 3 or 4 picks, right? And they'll be able to come up with the assets on the pick front, but who's that young player? Who's the Mikal Bridges? Who's the OG Anunoby? Who's that guy on that team where you're like I like Dorian Finney-Smith. He's a really good 3-and-D player. Reggie Bullock's a really good shooter. Maxi Kleber is a great defensive player and can shoot the ball. But like, who's that guy that's like that? Like Christian Wood is the closest thing to that for them, and he is like the most up and down player I've seen, because like he can get 25 and 12 and hurt the team like that because of how bad he can be defensively sometimes and how far he can go off the rails with his decision making offensively. So like, I just don't see them having they need to come up with one legit prospect. Who's starting to look pretty good this year is Josh Green, though. He's shooting the ball a hell of a lot better than he did last year, and he's so athletic and built like a truck. Like maybe he ends up being that guy, who knows? But they need that one young centerpiece that they can flip with salary filler and draft compensation to bring in the next Beal. But I do believe that I like that archetype too, like the high usage like heliocentric guy alongside the get a bucket guy, because the get a bucket guy usually struggles with running offense, and then the extremely high usage guy, like he just wants 20 possessions a game where he can go stand on the wing and just like be wide open. If you pass to me, I'll shoot a 3, but you do everything on this possession so I can rest. So that'd be the type of guy that I'd be looking to target if I was them.
I could pick your brain for hours. So before I let you go, where can people find you? Where can people follow you? By the way, watch out for Paolo. My Orlando Magic found a guy that's balling right now. I don't know if we tank for Victor and have Paolo, but I'm just going to be happy with Paolo. But all that he's balling. Like I don't think we saw it to be like this. Like he's scary.
That move, I think it was I can't remember
exactly
who
you're talking about on the elbow.
Yeah, and he had like a second counter move, pound through the legs. Who's he being guarded by? Who were they playing against? I'm trying to remember.
I don't think it was the Thunder.
It might have been the Pistons.
I think you're right.
And it was like, I want to say it was like Sadiq Bey or something. But yeah, like he I called him a bigger, stronger Melo during the offseason. And I'm starting to see a little bit of that where it's just like he's got a little bit of the Giannis like overpower you kind of game. But Melo had a little bit of that too when he was younger. Obviously he's got a long way to go with the jump shot. But yeah, I was the most impressive player I saw at Summer League was Jaden Ivey. And I remember thinking like, yeah, that's great, but I wouldn't put him over Paolo. Like I'd take him 2 behind Paolo because Paolo is he's everything you want in a modern mismatch attacking forward. Like he's bigger than all the wings, quicker than all the bigs, and he could shoot, dribble, pass. It's like everything that you want from that type of player.
And Victor Wembanyama, I got another one for you. I said he's like Amazon. He's like Amazon. And it didn't just all of a sudden come out and be this monster. It started off with selling books. So the evolution of the game became Amazon, where now if you had a 7'3", 7'4" guy shooting threes, you would have been like, there's no place for him in the league. Now that's what we've created. And he does A through Z. He does everything. So if you're still losing games, but Paolo's balling out, you're developing young talent, but you're still losing games. I don't know. It's an interesting position. I'm never for tanking. Like I just go and win now, be properly ran, create a culture. But with a guy like Victor that you don't get just out the blue every day, it's interesting. I think Orlando, now that you have the guy, you can sell that to your fans. And if you continue to lose, I'm going to be interested to see if they go for Victor. I mean, obviously, just because you're the worst team doesn't mean you get him. But they've been having some lucky chances with the lottery so far. So I don't know if they tank for Victor, but if you do have Victor and Paolo, that's something.
Yeah, I think the part that I struggle with is when you're banking on, like, I think the best possible chance you can get to get Victor is like less than 15%. I think it's like 12.5% or something like that. It's hard to plan your future around a 12% chance. Like that's just not smart. And like at the end of the day, like I like Scoot Henderson. And he's a good prospect, but he's not like a franchise altering type of prospect necessarily. And so unless there were like, if there were 4 franchise altering prospects, I'd be like, yeah, we're tanking. Cause like I have basically a 60% chance of getting one of those guys. I got to go for it. But at the end of the day, I'm with you. Like your chances of getting Victor are so low, regardless of whether you finish 25th in the standings or 29th in the standings or 30th in the standings. Like just go about trying to build a culture, because that sort of thing is way harder to do anyway. Like look at how teams like Brooklyn and Philly and LA, or even the Clippers, are struggling with like maintaining like culture that they had over the years. It's so hard to do. Like that you can focus on. And then I'm a big believer too in the basketball gods, like that kind of thing you just get rewarded for in the long run anyway.
You're a smart man. Jason, you're always welcome on the podcast. But like I said, before I let you go, where can people listen to you? Where can people follow you? The floor is yours.
First of all, Max, thanks for having me on, man. It was a blast. You can follow me on Twitter at _JasonLT. At the Volumes YouTube page, that's where all of our videos get dropped every night. And then everything gets redistributed on our podcast feed, which is under Hoops Tonight and is available wherever you get your podcasts.
You heard it there. Go give them a follow. Until next time, Jason, we'll talk soon.
See you, buddy.